Woohoo! I love that you're wearing blue today, Erin.
In full disclosure, this is actually what I wore to bed. And I was like, you know what? I can do the podcast in my jammies. Why do I need to? I mean, obviously,
Yes.
I comb my hair, and obviously I always brush my teeth and I make my bed. And I'm like, I don't want to wear a bra for the podcast. No one's going to see me. And even if they do, that wouldn't be a problem either, right? Like, that's one of the things I'm working on.
Yep.
And I'm in my house and I want to just wear my, it's just a tank top, and I have, shorts, like, what are they, like really soft cottony shorts. And that's what I want to wear. So that's what I did. Cause there's lots of stories that we have here. Erin does around, like, in business, you need to look like this. So
I love that.
Today we're just going to do this. We're going to just, if you're not watching, we're just going to, like, with the messy finger paints, and you gave your kids like the messy, if you had kids, have kids, whatever, you give their messy finger paints, and it starts off as like those colors, right? And then at the end, it's just brown. That's what we're going to do today.
Yep. We're going to take the blue and the red and the yellow. We're going to take the primary colors and we're going to squish them all together and play with them, and then just make a big fat mess. And that sounds so delightfully delicious today. So I love that Erin, as I look at her right now, she's like fully representing the blue. She's got blue in her background. She's got a shade of blue that she's wearing. She's got blue accents as well as brown on her glasses. And I have shown up in magenta, kind of a purple shade. I have a little bit of purple lip stuff on. And so we're going to play with this idea today of gender. We're going to play with little girl, little boy, and unicorns, like the thing that universally joins us all. So before we start doing that, before we get into the finger paint, let's come together. Let's just check in with our bodies. What are we noticing? Is the mere mention of talking about little girls, little boys, or unicorns making you feel a certain thing inside of your body? Are you curious? Are you cranky? How do you feel about labels? When I say little girl, what do you notice inside your body? When I say little boy, what do you notice inside your body? And when I talk about unicorns and unicorn farts, which we are going to play with today, what else do you notice inside your body? Do you notice, is there anything tense? Like, let's play with this idea of tensing everything up so that we can feel what it's like to relax. So I want everybody to, like, scrunch your nose and squint your eyes and like grit your teeth for a second, and then just let it all kind of go. And then let's bring our shoulders up nice and tight around our ears, and then let them go. And let's, like, squeeze our abs like the Hulk for a minute, and then let them go. And then, of course, a good skill to have, squeeze those butt cheeks nice and tight in case you have to pinch one off and run to the bathroom because you're about to poop your pants. And then let that go. Notice what your breath is doing with each one of these sections. And then let's just curl our toes really tight, like I'm really happy, or I'm feeling something delicious, or maybe I'm like, oh, I don't want to move forward. I'm scrunching my feet up to stop myself. So, are you ready to play, my friend?
Always. Let's do it. I can't breathe when I'm tensing up.
Right? I
can't keep this pose forever.
especially because you and I practice so much that just like relaxing and leaning into discomfort, leaning into the shitty, stinky stuff, leaning into the joy, leaning into all of it, like all of the things, right?
Yeah.
So I have been on quite the journey over the last several months, well, my whole lifetime, of course. One of the things that I've been deeply exploring myself is my little inner boy. And so I just want to start this podcast off saying that Erin and I are completely, I'll speak for myself, I am completely supportive of doing away with labels. And I understand where we have wanted to hold labels to feel like we had some stability, some grounding in what we consider is our identity.
I also think this, first of all, number one, I most always agree with Tanya. So I will speak up when I don't agree. You can always speak for me too, because I'm pretty much there. Also, I think in this society that we live in, at least the Western one, that's where I've lived in, is this idea of fair, which is a judgment. But sometimes we have labels because we have to be fair to all the different labels, right?
Mm, I hadn't even considered that concept. Ooh, something fun to play with. Thank you for
So
saying that.
go ahead.
I I want to start playing with this idea of gender, especially because so I and Erin, I, Tanya, and Erin, we do not subscribe to the news. We don't subscribe to the types of social media that are like politics, religion, that sort of thing, that are really pressing what people labels identity level things. My friend Patty, of course, she talks about the different levels and identity level, which we oftentimes talk about identity. Identity is timeless. Identity is right up there with our spirit, our energy, and that um, it is timeless. It is our beliefs that come just before our identity. Those beliefs are what create who we think that we are, or who it is that we're pushing against. Like some of us may easily identify as a girl or a boy, and then others of us may say, I don't want to be identified that way. But really, it's just about beliefs. And so that's what I asked Erin if she was open to playing with today. This idea of what does it mean? What are we making it mean to be a girl? What are we making it mean to be a boy? And knowing that we're really all fucking unicorns. We're the boy and the girl. You put the blue and the pink, which is also essentially red with a little white softness added into it, um, to create the purple. We're all of that. And yes, we may have a dominance of the XX or the XY chromosome, but really each and every one of us is a little girl and a little boy that has been put together, at least currently. I have actually seen a vision in the distant future, and I don't know if that's going to be centuries away, that there really isn't so much of a gender, right? That we will adapt and evolve to being a species that is, I'm the word is escaping me at the moment, but like there's some nudibranchs, there's some help me out here, like not amoebas, but basically
Where
like
they can create and propagate by themselves. I don't know the word, but I know what you're saying, right? There's
yeah,
lots of in nature that already exists, right?
yes,
There are trees that don't need to be pollinated, or I should say can self-pollinate themselves,
mm-hmm.
right? They don't need bees, they don't need other things to help with that process. So it exists in nature already.
Yeah. And like I notice with nudibranchs, my husband studies nudibranchs. He's an avid diver and a photographer and loves to explore those things. And nudibranchs don't really have a male or female gender. Like they take on what is needed. One is laying the eggs, and the other one is fertilizing them. They take on whatever role is needed in that moment, right? And then the self-pollinating. So I see us moving that way, and I'm wondering if some of the, because even though I don't watch news, I do hear a lot about, you know, they, them, non-binary. Please don't call me she or her. Like I don't want to be pigeonholed. I don't want to be labeled. And so I myself have been exploring this a lot within myself as I've been working towards healing my inner child. Um, so, like, what are some of the labels, or what are some of the things that you learned about what it means to be a little boy? Like,
Um, so when I think about and this obviously comes from my upbringing or maybe around kids that I were, right? Like boys are messy or boys are stinky. Even my husband will say this sometimes. I was asking him the other day, he uses this like really nice, like shea butter on his face after he shaves.
hmm
So delicious, smells so good. But it's a thick kind of, it's not even a cream, it's like an oil, but and so we on our bamboo sheets, there's kind of like this darker on his pillow. And I asked him, I was like, is this from your Buddha butter? And he was like, maybe, or me, I'm just a stinky, dirty boy. And I'm like, there it is, right? Like this
hmm
belief that boys are stinky or dirty or messy or um
rough and tumble.
rough. I was gonna say rough housing, right? Like
hmm
angry. Lots of, if we're trying not to label things, right? And then I'm like, well, if we want to label it, it's kind of like really negative and pessimistic, kind of, it's just like what I don't know if I hear a lot of people talk about boys being, oh, he's so sweet, or oh, he's so gentle, or oh, he's so in touch with his feelings, or um
hmm
that kind of wasn't the message that I grew up with. And also um even just out and about, like hearing parents, like we were at a tour the other day, and this little boy, he was 2.5, he looked like 4, he looked like a tank, just solid. And he had twin siblings, and you hear him say, I'm not a baby boy anymore, mommy. And it's like we're 2.5 and we're already being conditioned to be like, you're not a baby anymore, you know
Yeah.
um so yeah, the softness, I don't know if I yeah, I think boys are, I don't believe this, I think what I was taught was that, yeah, like I said, messy, dirty, uh, uncouth, whatever. I need to look that one up, that one comes to mind. They can fart, they're allowed to fart, they're allowed to burp. um
What?
you know
No
those
way.
those are acceptable behaviors, girls are not. So yeah, what about you?
So for me, this is really interesting. I've just thought about this, the fact that I grew up in a lesbian household. So what did I learn about little boys? A lot of what I learned about little boys was from my dad. His absence in a lot of ways. Like I learned that little boys can get mad, and you don't want to make them mad. You want to be coy with them. Um, you want to entice or seduce them. You want to, and not that my dad was teaching me this, but um, it was sort of like the boys just want one thing, especially once they get to a certain age. Um, Boys cannot be trusted in what their
Mm,
intentions are. Um, like my grandmother had a little bit of an attitude. My grandmother had a lot of attitude that men cannot be trusted. Um, that you will, you know what? I think my grandmother was a manifester. The more I think about it, the more I think she was a manifester, because she was like, don't trust them. You can do things on your own. My mom, a manifest generator, um, was like, I don't need a man in my life. And like to help me to do things. But yeah, I learned that yes, it was okay for them to be farty stinky, which it's interesting though, because I never felt like that was okay. And most of the guys that I dated were not that way. Um, I would
Makes
hear all,
sense.
yeah, I would hear all the time from other girls about, how the husband would jokingly grab them and then fart on their heads or something like that. And like all the guys that I dated were not like that. Um, and so that even, of course, suppressed me even more with like little girls don't burp, they don't fart, they don't smell like you're supposed to smell nice. Um, what other, like little boys are supposed to be responsible. They're
That's what I was
supposed
going
to
to say. You said little boys, but as we take this, I mean, we're all just little children walking around, right? As you
grown up
extrapolate
bodies.
this,
Yep.
I mean, I just had this conversation with my dad. He just made the comment the other day that like men, he thinks it's the responsibility of a man to provide for his family. And we were having a very candid conversation in front of my child. And I was like, I do not believe that. I'm like, that feels like if I was a man, that would feel like a lot of pressure. I want to empower my child to know that she doesn't need anyone, right? And she can want someone and someone can participate in the financial success of her family, right? But it's
Yeah.
not someone's responsibility to take care of her. That feels very heavy.
Yeah. I think about that with my my dad. I mean, the messaging that I got from my mom. It's interesting. So I have two different views of my mom and my dad, right? I have my human 3D view, like this has been my experience, and then I have this other more elevated fifth dimension outside of me view, like what I came here to learn so that I could teach and help others with. So in my 3D view of my mom was all about like my parents got divorced when I was an infant. And my mom was all about like, I don't need a man to help me. I can, she was very proud of the fact that she didn't receive any child support. And at the same time, um, I saw a lot of other children and it was like their daddies would take them places and do things with them and spend money
Present.
on them. Right.
Yeah.
Um, and there was that financial component. And I would hear about um, other kids that were from a divorced family and the father paid child support. And then there was also well, he's trying to, doing nails for 30 years. I heard lots of stories from women about either deadbeat dads that were trying to get out of their responsibilities and um, just that struggle with like women not feeling like they're enough. They get paid less um and so yeah, like the expectation of a man to be a man, um don't show your emotions because it makes you look weak. um I was thinking about that the other day, especially as my husband and I were starting to shift roles where I'm the one that is working and providing, and he is, finally allowed himself to retire. And I'm like, I want you to just play, have some fucking fun, because ever since he was a little boy, he was responsible. He was not only responsible for himself, but he was responsible for his little brother. And then he was responsible to his parents, right? He's had this weight of responsibility on him. And also, I think a little bit of a little bit of messaging from his dad that, you know, be a man,
Yeah.
toughen up.
We don't have time. We don't have time for emotions. We got work and shit to do. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even noticed that with like, you know, observing other men around me and these roles that they think that they have to be the strong, the tough, the
They can't let their
backbone
guard
of
down, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, they can't be like vulnerable and be like, I need some help, or I need to talk about this, or, you know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No safety around that.
What
So
about for
there's
girls?
for girls. Well, I'm from a slightly different generation than you, but not that much different. What am I? 12 years older than you,
Yeah. Tanya's
and
54. I'm 42. So yeah.
yeah, almost 54. Yeah, but yeah,
Okay. Almost 50. Doesn't matter. She looks
no, it
amazing.
doesn't. I will forever be an 8-year-old girl in this
Yeah.
body. Um, an 8-year-old unicorn actually,
There
because
you go.
I am totally embracing my little boyness and my little girlness, and those two together make my magic unicorn. And of course, my favorite color is purple because I love pink and I love purple and I love blue and yeah. Um, for me, it was what it meant to be a lady. I grew up in the era
Mm.
of what does it mean to be a lady? Um, how you smell, how you look, makeup, clothes, like how you package yourself, but not too sexy, not too seductive, not too alluring, because then you are a whore. Then you are a hussy, or like you're supposed to be this seductress in the bedroom and then the quintessential mom outside of the bedroom. Um, so many things about like what you're strong enough to do. I always had this sort of internal fight. So for me, things are very much about the body, what it means to be um, a girl in a body. And I was always struggling with this. You know, on one hand, I wanted to have this, my womanly softness. I wanted to have nice breasts and have some curves to me. And then on the other hand, I wanted to be strong. I wanted
Mhm.
to, like, one of my favorite things was to go to the gym. And so this would have been in like the late 80s, early 90s, where I would put on a like a thong unitard with some tights to go work out in, um, like some little bike
I'm
short.
laughing for those of you that cannot see me. I am like dying over here because I can totally see Tanya with the hair and the one piece
Hair
unitard.
done, earrings on, makeup
Oh
on,
shit,
showing
Tanya.
up with like a one-piece unitard that was a little bit cheeky, and then my little bike shorts, and then showing up. And I used to do this thing where I would walk into the gym and I would look at the weights like, oh, what do I do with these? And then I would grab like the 45-pound weights and I'd go over to the hip sled and put him on that. And then I would just watch these big muscle bound guys just look at me like, well, I just can't wait. And she's going to need saving. She's going to need rescuing. And I'd load up the weights on the hip sled. And then I'd look at it like, okay, how do I work this thing? And then I'd get on and I'd flip the things off and watch these guys like jump to be like, oh shit, she's going down. She's going down. And then I'd just be like, boop, 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 as I'm pushing the weights up on the hip sled. Or could you spot me? I'm going to do some pull-ups. And so there was this idea of like I'm supposed to be soft and feminine and not very strong. And if I get too muscular or get too strong, then I look masculine, and that is a turnoff for some. And it was always
Mm.
this like,
Yeah, dance, right? I call it like a tightrope or a dance or whatever you want to call it, right? Because that's what it's funny, you said, well, we're of a different generation, but are we? Because my mom is 16 years older than you. And so she has that same conditioning that you have. So obviously she just passed it right down, even though we're of a different generation. She is, raised Catholic, and girls don't. I mean, I used to burp all the time, and my mom would be like, girls don't burp. And I'm like, well, this girl does, and so
One of my favorite things about you.
so, I remember those things that my mom would tell me, burping, farting, you need to sit like a lady. We went to private school. So I did not want to wear dresses, and my mom wanted me to, or, that was part of the rules with private school. I can't remember, but I was like, then you're going to need to buy me shorts. Cause I do like on the playground, I would like hang with my feet, upside down or whatever. And my dress would fall towards my head, and just how much my mom wanted to make me look like a frilly little girl, like with the bows and the frilly socks and all the things. And I didn't want any part of that. Right. Like I wanted to be in shorts and just play. And so just having that, is it dichotomy? Is that the word I'm looking for? Like, and there was also like tension with that, right? Like that is one of the things that I will say, like my mom and I used to fight about so much, is how I dress. And not because I wanted to dress sexually. It's just because I wanted to just wear a shirt and some shorts, and it didn't look girly enough. Right. So, and also like noticing, like you say too, like around oh, you can't lift that. You can't, like, I've always been a fan of weights and weightlifting, and so when I might be walking or carrying, like at our other house, we had a water softener. So you have to put salt in it. Right. And those are 40-pound bags. And I would just like farmer carry them out of, Home Depot, and people would be like, oh, let me help you. It's like, this is what I do all the time. Like, and just the overarching, like, you need help. You're not capable of doing something, which is probably, and I don't know if I got the message like overtly, but for sure, like what you wear and how you present yourself is how you show yourself to the world. So I don't know if there was ever any like, don't wear cleavage. That's the word I was looking for. Don't wear cleavage stuff. It's just, I never wanted to portray myself as that. So I've always probably covered myself up. And I know that I don't know when it was, or, what the switch was, but I always wanted to be in a room full of men, not because of how I looked, but because of my intellect. And there was something around being respected by men, not because of my body, but because of, I could go head to head with them on their logic and intellect and, all of that. And so I remember, I think when I was a financial planner, like, people had said to me, like, you don't dress, because I probably wore like, a collared button down shirt and nice pants, nice tailored pants. And then I would wear like sandals, like maybe a little bit high heel sandals, but not much. And that was always something that was like, why is what I'm wearing have anything to do with my knowledge and what I can provide for my clients, right? Like, as soon as I open my mouth, my clients understand I know what I'm talking about. They don't care. They don't come to see me based on what I'm wearing, whether it looks, air quotes, if you guys aren't watching, professional or not, right? Like they hire me because I care about them and their money and what I know. And so it was always so fascinating of like, oh, if you're in this sector, you need to look like this. If you're in this sector, you need to look like this. And just even with the labels, even within the sectors, right? Not just gender, but like, and yeah, so I've always found it fascinating of what girls are expected to wear and what boys are.
Yeah. I struggled with that as well, because for me, I learned from a very early age that that I was a magnet. I learned from a very early age that, I just think about, I want to flip this for a second. Like I think about when my daughter was little, And I would have moments where I was just like, oh, I just want to take a bite of her. She's just like so delicious. I just
Yes.
wanted to just like,
Same.
you
Eat you
know,
up. Yeah. I want
yeah,
to eat
yeah,
you up.
yeah. Or I would sit there and gaze at her while she was sleeping, and I would just be like so mesmerized. And it wasn't that I was thinking, oh, you're a girl or a boy, but I was just attracted to this,
Energy.
yes, her energy, her innocence, her purity, her like all of her potential. And then realizing, like, for myself, I grew up wearing stuff that was just fun. I love to play dress up. I love to play all kinds of dress up. Um, and the thing that I was learning as a girl was how um, how to appease people, right? So you had the mom that was saying, I want you to wear a dress. And I also, my grandmother wanted to put me in dresses all the time. And I got lots of attention for that, for being such a beautiful little
You're so cute and
girl.
so
Oh, you're
pretty. And
so cute. Yep. And I was very creative when I was little. I mean, I still am, but it was like, I just loved doing singing, dancing, making people laugh. Um, whether it was in a white t-shirt and plaid pants and my Porky Pig guitar, or it was in my grandma's wig and a bikini. Um, but then something shifted. It was like, it was put on a dress, look pretty, have these nice things for when we go out, right? It's all about setting the stage. But then it became, okay, so the stage that I was taught to set from a very early age now was actually coming back at me in a very negative way. It was, you're being too revealing. You're,
asking for this because of the way you're dressing.
yes, yes, you're
Yeah.
asking for this kind of attention. And I was like, what? Now, looking
Yeah.
back, I can say, well, I was taught
Yeah. Of
to
course.
ask for
I'm
the attention.
confused.
I
Yeah.
was taught to seek the attention. I was taught to seek that, like to basically to pull people in. And now
Mhm.
suddenly this was an evil power, right? It was the wrong way of doing things. Um, where I had been basically taught, like, that's how you get love, that's how you get attention, that's how you're seen, that's how you're heard, is by, acting a certain way or wearing a certain thing or playing a certain role. And suddenly that role had basically turned on me. It had
Mhm.
completely become a not safe place. You're asking for this attention. And then that was also, like, I even think about when I was at my dad's. Um, my dad was basically, um, he was going to fix all the messes that my mom made with me.
Here we go
Um,
back to, but his role was, I have to clean up all of the mess that someone else, aka a woman, might have
yep, yep.
gotten into.
I gotta come in and fix things.
Mhm.
We've talked about that before, like the difference between fixer energy and prevention, or yeah, just being responsible for other people's things. And the first when I moved in with my dad at 14, like having met a boy at church that was a nice boy, and then, like, oh no, he's too old for you. Like, he's at that age where he's just going to want certain things, right? Regardless of how he was raised. And so then I ended up finding the bad boy with a lightning bolt earring and a black leather jacket. I mean, talk about like the roles, right? The archetypes that we give things: the bad boy, the good boy, the bad girl, the good girl, the um, you know, like we were talking the other day about our husbands and this idea that, like, if you're sensitive, my husband is highly sensitive. And like, I don't even think sometimes he's actually aware of exactly how sensitive he is. Um, and sometimes the messages of having to be the responsible, the strong, like again, that
Head
dichotomy
of household, the right,
yeah,
maybe decision maker, the
yeah,
person that like fixes all the things and takes care of all the things.
yeah. Um, so just like my role of dress up, be the nice girl, be the attractive girl, be the one that, you know, can like um, entertain people, please people, and then how that turned on me. I think some of those same things that probably happened with my husband, as far as like I'm sensitive and that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, David's never like he hasn't had a fear of being seen as sensitive that I'm aware of. I don't know. It's possible that he fears being seen as sensitive. Like, what does that even mean to little
Because I think
boys?
also too, as sometimes we can label sensitive with weak, right? If you're
Right?
sensitive, then you're weak
You're
and
soft, you're vulnerable.
vulnerable.
If you care about how you look, what do we have a
That's
label
been
for that?
mhm.
Yep, you're metrosexual or you're
Yeah,
notice how we put sexual with
yeah, things.
everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Our sexuality is our creativity,
yeah.
right?
Without the copy, if you were just to say like, what is sexuality? It's without the copulation.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just our liveliness, our lovingness, our unconditional love, our um,
nurturing, our
nurturing. Yeah,
healing,
yeah,
right? It's our ability to be creative.
yeah.
Like the energy of that is our ability to be creative. And there's a light, a dark, a yin, a yang, boy, girl. It's all the same thing, right? Um, when things get, I think, really hazy is when we isolate something and then we make that right or wrong, good or bad. Like we
Mm-hmm.
isolate, what does it mean to be, you are a girl? I am saying, I'm identifying you as a girl. And I totally get why some people have this like, don't call me a she, don't call me a her, don't call me a he, don't call me a him, right? Because that feels so restrictive,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we look at what we have defined that to be. And if we have a huge association with being a girl has not been safe, like for
Mm-hmm.
me, or being a sensitive boy is not acceptable, again, not safe. And anytime our safety is compromised, anytime we're put in a space that ties us down and restricts us either with our rightness or our wrongness, it's limitation.
Yeah, big time. And this goes back to like, there is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. There's just judgment that people have, right? That's
Yep.
how, that was a big thing for me with my parents. It's like my dad always wanted to be air quotes fair. And I'm like, fair isn't even a thing. Fair is your judgment of what fair looks like, because the other party of that fairness might be like, that doesn't feel fair.
Yeah.
And so when we have judgment, that's where we as a society are like, it's only good to someone because they have beliefs around what good looks like or what bad looks like or what sexy looks like or what it doesn't look like, or
Mm-hmm.
what someone should or shouldn't be doing with their body, or expressing their body, you know, like even we talked about, I don't know if we talked about this too much, but like kids and makeup, like I did have a story, like little girls with makeup, little girls, 8, 9, 10, right? But then when I asked my daughter, which thanks to Tanya, you know, why do you want to play with the makeup? She was like, it's so fun. It's a way I get to create. And what's fascinating is the people that cut our hair, the lady that cuts our hair and the lady that does our pedicure, of course, they're like, I don't want to say they're all the same, but like they have those tendencies, right? And they were like, oh, from the very beginning, I always wanted to play with makeup and do my nails, but my parents wouldn't let me. And I didn't get to do that till I was like 16, right? And so that it's been fascinating to kind of watch that, like, if you enjoy those things, that creativeness, that is with you from the factory, right? That is who you are, and you want to explore in that way. I don't like to create from my makeup, right? I like to create in other ways, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong, but we as a society have what looks good or what doesn't look good, or what it should be at this certain age or what it doesn't, which is all just conditioning, right?
Yeah. All that conditioning and all of those patterns and how they keep showing up. I I will admit that even for our daughter, um, I wanted to buy her pretty fun things, and she was into some of it. Um, I don't know that I would actually be curious to ask her if she ever felt like I pressured her to be a certain way. I would guess that she did have some experience, especially around the whole farting and the smell and that sort of thing. I know for my own dysregulated nervous system at the time, I created such an issue in my gut around, you know, it's not ladylike to fart and burp. And so, how much I would hold that into my own discomfort and the experience that I had in my physical body around that. And when she was growing up, um, and I credit my liberation from the old patterns and conditioning around pooping, um, farting, burping,
Glad I can be that person
smelling.
for you.
Oh my gosh.
I know she's going to say me. And I'm like, I'll
Yes,
just take the credit. I know. I'm so glad I can be that part of liberation for you.
totally, totally. Oh my gosh. I remember when we met at the retreat and you were like, I have to go poop. I was like, holy shit, she just said that out loud. Like, what? Like, I have to have my morning poop time. I was like, my mind was exploding. And then when we were in San Diego, uh,
Shit, I don't even remember saying that at the retreat.
when we were in San Diego having a conversation about all of that, and you were just like, yeah, like I gotta poop. It's like, you were like, okay, well, I'm gonna go poop now, and then we can go do whatever it is. And I was just
What's
like,
what's fascinating is probably like I probably used to be very, very discreet about that because my mom is very discreet about that, right? So we were taught, you know, you don't need to advertise that everywhere. But after meeting my husband, my current husband, you know, he's always like that. He's like, where's my phone? I gotta go poop, you know, and just being so okay with that. And it's interesting we're talking about girls and boys because girls will say, I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go pee, but really you're going to go poop, but you don't want to say that, right?
yeah,
Boys they never have that problem. They're like, I'm going to go poop. I'll be back in a bit. The reason why I'm gone is because of that.
yes. Well, this is where not only did you liberate me, but then by proxy, you liberated my husband, which then by proxy liberated our daughters. So for the 27, 28 years that we had been married, yeah, we met in 1990, March of 1993. So we're coming up on almost 30 years of being together. And it is literally only been within this last year and a half or so that this dynamic has changed in our relationship because um, he also was like, he wouldn't even fart around me. Now, if one squeaked out, he was like almost a little startled by that. He would say, I'm going to the bathroom. And then he would
Meaning
just,
I could need to poop. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he would disappear, or he'd say, I have to use the restroom. Like he'd come back from diving and he'd say, I need to use the restroom and then I'm going to go clean my dive gear. What he really meant was, I'm going to go poop and then I'm going to go clean my dive gear. But we didn't talk about these kinds of things. And I always felt so much shame around passing gas, farting, and then the smell, right? That I would hold that in. And my husband sort of had this response of, oh, like, could you have done that somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
Especially with our daughter. Our daughter had gastrointestinal issues, like from the very get-go. She was barely a month or so old, and she was, she wasn't thinking twice about pooping on his leg when he changed her diaper, and it was
Yeah.
fine then. But at some point that shifted, and the expectation was like, girls have sometimes like the stinky hormonal farts, that we call them SBDs, silent but deadlies, right? And he would actually tell her, go away, go in the other room, like, and there was no laughter about it, right? It was this,
I'm
like,
like, I do tell that to my husband sometimes, but it's like, come on, dude, at least give us a warning or something.
yeah, give a warning, let me get a candle lit, something, right, before, well, fire in the hole. Right. But
almost like he can't make your daughter have shame, but there was shame attached to it, right? Like
oh,
your
absolutely.
body, what your body does is not okay with what I think it should do, and it's gross.
Mhm.
Get away from me.
Yeah. And so he was actually, a little different than most of the guys I've met.
Yeah.
And like back to that comment that I mentioned before, most of the guys I dated didn't talk about that, weren't open about that. No surprise, right? Because I was very much not open about that.
Yep.
If my stomach was having any kind of gas or issues, which was frequent.
I'm like, my gosh, you just walked around holding it in all the time, like such pressure.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the pressure that men feel to support their spouse and their children, and the pressure that women feel to keep it all in.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like in this last year and a half of just starting, especially after we had those conversations in San Diego the last 2,
Mm-hmm.
are we on? We almost
Year
at,
and a half. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. The liberation that allowed has opened up some like different awareness with my husband's sensitivity. And I'm like, what must it have been like to be a little boy growing up as you? What was it like in your house? Which then, of course, was part of the thing that helped me think about my dad, and my relationship with him. So part of healing my inner little boy, coming to a place of, first, a place of neutrality, and then
Yeah.
being able to move from that neutrality to being able to love and accept it in my body, to be embodied with that, had me thinking about things like, what must it have been like? What kind of messages did my dad receive growing up? What kind of environment, what kind of expectations were put on him that would like allow him to physically beat my brother, and probably my sister and my half sister, my half brother, any of my other half siblings from his 4 marriages, um, and allowed him to emotionally and somewhat physically also abuse me. When I started looking at what must his childhood have been like, what conditioning was placed on him about being a man, about being a boy. And that led me to just having so much more compassion. At first, it was anger. How could you
Anger,
do this
right?
to me? How?
Yep.
And there was a
It's
lot of
got to be the
shutdown
anger
too.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it started with a complete shutdown. It's not okay to be me. Then it moved to the anger. And then after that, the place of neutrality that I sat in for a long time was like, I forgive you for the things that you did. And I'm still aware that you did these things and you did these things to me. And now I have various patterns and conditioning that are set up because of that foundation, which is, kind of what got me into really examining, what does it mean to be a boy? What does it mean to be a girl? What kinds of influences are our religion, our culture, our race, our environment, our family of origin, defining what it means to be who we are, because really we are all a little girl and a little boy, and we have
100%.
those beliefs that we hold inside of us, and then we either use them as a way to beat ourselves up, a way to feel like we don't fit in, a way to feel like we do fit in, or we're righteous in being the way that we are, which
Yep.
then also leads to a lot of fighting, a lot of like, I have to fight for my righteousness, or I'm oppressed by my wrongness, right? So yeah, I'm appreciative of the conversation because, um, really exploring both sides of that, and then where they meet in the middle is, I think, the thing that's going to help us moving forward. Like, what kind of messages do you think your dad got? Have you ever pondered that?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of like what I said, right? It's just of the, you're supposed to support, you're supposed to be the, if you were to look at his physical presence over his financial presence dominated big time, right? And I think that he's getting to see now, with what little time he spends with Grayson, like what child rearing is like, because he didn't do a lot of those things. Yes, he would come home and maybe give us a bath or read us a book, but that was like 7:30, 8 o'clock already, right? Like the whole day had already. But I remember, like, I don't think he went to a lot of my volleyball games, tennis games when I was older, things of that sort. Like my mom was the primary caregiver in our house. And one, what pressure it was for him, right, to feel that. Also, too, from an emotional standpoint for him, like, I haven't asked him, but like, it might suck to have missed out on a lot of the things that your kids got to do, right? Like, that was that compromise. That was the feeling that I had to compromise. If I wanted to make a lot of money, I would have to miss out on my child's life. And I wasn't willing to do that. And I didn't know how to, you know, reconcile the two. Right. So yeah, like for to be told that, I mean, in order for him to have to say that to me, he has to believe that himself. Right. And that, the supporting and that just, I think that from my perception, that just feels like a lot. And it feels like you miss out on lots of, being present. And I mean, if you were just to look at, if you weren't labeled boys or girls, if we're all just energy and vibration, right? It's the same energy and vibration.
All just a bunch of
Children.
unicorns.
Yeah. Children in there before they are conditioned, right? They're just like this little be bopping around and 500 540 hertz or higher, right? Like,
yeah,
they just are these joyous beings. So
yep. Thanks for the exploration and play today.
as always,
our inner unicorns, bringing together that idea of the light, the dark, the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, the boy, the girl, the yin, the yang, right?
Yeah. We're all of it, right? We're all of it. And I know you said this at the beginning, the XX or the XY, but like right now, it takes a male and a female to create a child. Whatever, however that happens, right? Whatever way it wants to happen, that's what's necessary. And so you have both in you. So until next time.
Until next time. Mwah.